Hello, everybody. Welcome to Zone Defense. We talk all things NBA and NFL. Be sure to follow us on Spotify at Zone Defense Podcast, on Twitter at Zone Defense Pod, and hit that subscribe button down below because it really helps our channel a lot. Also, let us know what team you think Odell Beckham Jr. signs with and who you think is leading the midseason MVP race. Today, we'll be doing our Week 10 NFL game picks. How's it going, Chris?
What's going on, Roman? I wasn't here last week, so I'm returning off my bye week. Um, I'm looking forward to this one. The hometown Lions are back on the clock against the Steelers, which we'll talk about later. We'll preview some other good games as well. It should be a good week of football, though. I'm looking forward to it, man. I mean, we're starting to, we're at the halfway point. Some of the competitive teams are starting to show themselves. Some of the not so competitive teams are obviously showing themselves as well. So looking forward to see this home stretch, and these games are going to start getting bigger and bigger for us. But I'll just jump right into the news and notes. We got a lot of big injuries this week. Trevor Lawrence, Matt Stafford, a couple guys coming off minor ankle injuries. I expect both guys will be all right. We'll have to see some practice reports, but I expect both to be okay. We got Tua game time decision right now with the finger injury. I lean towards he probably doesn't play, but we'll have to see. It's currently Wednesday, so we could probably get more information tomorrow morning. Sam Darnold, now this is a guy I know will not be playing, and that's because of an injured shoulder, and also, he couldn't even. If you saw, it was an incomplete fracture, so he wasn't even able to complete the fracture, which is very fitting for Sam Darnold, who is, in my opinion, maybe the worst starting quarterback in the league right now, and just looks lost out there. So this honestly is PJ Walker will start for the time being because he's on IR. So honestly, a definite upgrade for Carolina. At least it's a guy that maybe can run a little bit, maybe could show them something a little bit more unknown. But Darrell Henderson, Chase Edmonds, Zach Moss, Kamara, Harris, all running backs here. Henderson and Edmonds actually both have ankle injuries. Henderson probably not too serious. Edmonds sounds a little bit more serious. He could go on IR. We'll have to see. But honestly, they're probably all right with James Conner, who just went absolutely nuts last week, which is nice to see, man. I like James Conner, so I'm glad he stepped up last week. A couple guys with concussions. That's Zach Moss, Damian Harris. Who knows if either one will play? We'll have to see later in the week. Harris, that would be a big loss for New England. They do have Ramondre Stevenson, who I thought played a pretty good game last week. Could see a bigger role. Honestly, both in that game, we could have two backup running backs in Stevenson for them, as well as Chubb for Cleveland could be out. So we could be seeing another Dearness Johnson week because Chubb has COVID, as you see there. Chris Godwin, another guy, he's got the foot injury. I mean, it's very early because this is a very fresh new injury that we don't know a lot about. We're dealing with the foot and a team that is very competitive. They may be without Antonio Brown, but honestly, I still think against like a team like Washington will probably get the job done. So he may sit this week. I think he might miss this week. We'll have to see. And then Kamara with a phantom knee injury that we haven't really heard much about. Didn't practice today. We'll have to see. Still early. Could just be a maintenance day. We'll have to see. They did sign a couple running backs. Former Lions great on Johnson. So we'll have to see kind of what that's going to become. A few signings. As I said, on Johnson signing. Not really a big deal. That's why he didn't make the cut here. Damon Arnett got cut for the videos. I'm sure everybody saw that. Some things going on with him. He got cut. His career could be over, just like Ruggs. We'll have to see. Odell Beckham Jr., which has not signed currently, but it's looking like maybe the Packers and the Patriots would probably be the two front runners. The Saints could be a team. The Chiefs, which I think that would be a very, very interesting destination for him. And then lastly, Deshaun Jackson going to the Raiders, which is a good move for them. He could fill that Ruggs role. Maybe not quite to the level Ruggs was doing, but a guy that's a deep threat and definitely could help this offense out, which honestly did not look good last week against the Giants defense, who's been bleeding points from everywhere. So hopefully that'll help them out. And then we got a couple guys returning from injury, a couple big name quarterbacks. Russ Wilson, sounds like he's confirmed to be back, so he'll, barring any setbacks, he'll be back out there in a big matchup. And then on the other side, I believe Aaron Rodgers will play and is activated. I think he will get activated from the COVID list, and I don't think he's going to practice at all, but I expect him to play in this game, which, I mean, it's in the same game. Also, Roman's dynasty team, both quarterbacks on his roster, so both these guys being returning is going to be a welcome sight for him this week. So
Oh yeah.
looking forward to that, I'm sure, for him. But a couple running backs potentially returning. Chris Carson coming from that weird neck injury he's had all year. He may be back this week. Clyde Edwards-Helaire practiced today. He'll probably miss this week, I'm assuming, but the fact that he's back at practice is nice for the Chiefs, who honestly, that cover two shell defense has been really giving them fits, just not allowing deep plays, making Mahomes throw the ball underneath, making them run the ball. Clyde, as you know, say what you want about him being, a bad pick in the first round, he's still their best running back, and he's going to help this offense for sure. He's going to make them a little bit more, unpredictable, a little bit better on the ground as well. So looking forward to seeing his return. And then lastly, Logan Thomas, who's been out for a while for Washington, he could be back this week as well. We'll have to see, but I expect he'll probably be back. He's missed a lot of time, so we'll see. But like I said, big week of news and notes. A lot of other stuff we could probably talk about, but these are the big injuries, signings, returnings, all that. Roman, do you have anything to add before we get in the game? Pick 'em.
I'll just give my quick prediction on OBJ. I think it comes down to the Patriots or the Packers. I think he's in a good situation in both. Obviously, he wanted to go to a playoff contender, which seems like the options he laid out on the table. They'll probably all make the playoffs, even the Patriots, who are coming up on the hunt soon. I think he's in a good spot no matter where he goes. Seattle was also in that conversation to even put in a claim for him. However, he went unclaimed, so he is free to sign with anyone. And he hasn't signed yet, as you mentioned, but maybe he signs while we're recording, or maybe he signs later throughout the week. So we'll keep you updated on where he goes if he signs somewhere soon. But we'll get into the pick'em. Drew is unfortunately not here with us today, but he put his picks in the document. We'll go over his picks too. Last week, a pretty even week. Chris won by one game, bringing his lead a little closer. All of us are still close to each other as well, so it should be a very entertaining second half stretch for us. But we'll go into the Thursday night game right now. Baltimore versus Miami. The Ravens had another comeback victory last week against Minnesota. They might look like the best team in the AFC right now, the most well-rounded team. They're coming back from 14 points, multiple 10-point deficits, 18 points versus the Colts. They look pretty good right now. And then they're going up against a Miami team who, like you mentioned, Chris, probably won't have Tua. They didn't have Tua last week against Houston, and they played an ugly game. And even though they did win, uh, I'll let you go first, but I think we all know we're going to pick this game.
Yeah, I'm going to take Baltimore. Nothing really else there to talk about. It's just a team that has a lot of talent. The best quarterback, obviously, in this matchup. Miami, besides being at home in this matchup, doesn't have a lot going for it. Their defense has been bleeding points to basically everybody. Baltimore's offense looks good, honestly. And you kind of teased at the beginning of the episode talking about the MVP frontrunner. I think Lamar Jackson absolutely deserves this award, hands down. He would be my by far and away pick to win MVP right now. And that may be controversial. A lot of other quarterbacks that have been good this year, Tom Brady, for example, Josh Allen could be in that discussion. Matt Stafford, Kyler Murray. I don't care about any of them. Lamar Jackson is my MVP right now. I think he's been unbelievable this season. He's playing at just the same level as he was when he actually won the MVP. Honestly, and this is more impressive. He's got more injuries around him on both sides of the ball. And this team is just continuing to find ways to get it done. I've been so thrilled with what I've seen from Lamar. I think there's nothing you can criticize this man for anymore. And he's going to come out here on a primetime game and prove it for sure. He's a great player.
Yeah, I agree too. I think he's one of the only QBs doing more with less. However, you do have to look at the emergence of Rashad Bateman. He's doing very well
Oh yeah, baby.
coming off the IR, and even Devontae Freeman in the backfield. It seems like he's kind of stepping into that starting role. Although they might use a committee more often, but I think Freeman is a
Yeah.
solid starter in their backfield. So I just agree with you. I don't think this will be a very close game. And Drew agrees with us. He picks Baltimore as well. But next we'll go into the hometown Lions game coming off a bye. They did make some moves in the bye week though. They did cut Tyrell Williams, who was on an IR for extended period of time with concussion, so he's gone. But they did claim Josh Reynolds, wide receiver, today off waivers. He was formerly with Tennessee, didn't get as much playing time since they did bring in Julio, but I think he comes in Detroit, contributes right away. Former weapon of Goff, so it definitely helps it quite a bit. At least having just someone familiar with, although obviously he'll be the wide receiver one because we really don't have anyone. Uh, going up against a great Pittsburgh defense who kind of got a lucky win on prime time on Monday night against the Bears. I'm going to go with the Steelers. Obviously, I think they have much more weapons on offense, defense, and obviously, I give credit to Pat Fryermuth, who had a great
Shut
Monday
up.
night game.
We're not going to talk about that. Roman did beat me in Dynasty last week without any quarterbacks. I had Mahomes and Dak both suck for me. But other than that, I don't really talk about that anymore. Fryermuth, That was awesome. I will say he does look good in a football sense. He looks like an emerging player for this team. So I'm excited to see his development in this system. And Pittsburgh's going to win this game easily. Coming off of a controversial win against Chicago, they're going to want to come out and show teams that they deserve to win that game. And I mean, Detroit, obviously they should beat Detroit, but I think they're going to come out and lay the lumber on Detroit at home in Pittsburgh, an easy place, a tough place for away teams to play, especially a team like Detroit. Um, I don't have him as my start of the week, and I apologize if I'm spoiling yours, but please, please, please start Pittsburgh's defense wherever you can, whenever you can. So they're going to have a great week this week.
Yeah, even though Fields kind of dotted them up a little bit late, I mean,
Yeah, it did.
the defense pretty much had their way for most of that game. So credit to them, and TJ Watt's getting better and better each game. And obviously, Drew picked Pittsburgh as well. So we're all in agreement so far.
Yeah.
Next game, Atlanta Falcons at the Dallas Cowboys. The Falcons kind of got a very sneaky win in New Orleans last week against Winston-less Saints. And the Cowboys, they laid a big stinker at home against the Denver Broncos, who came out and strong from start to finish and dominated them. The game score looked a little closer than it felt like, just because of all the garbage time points Dak and the Cowboys put up. But make no mistake, the Broncos dominated from start to finish. So they're at home again facing Atlanta. These two teams played last year, and Dallas won on a very, very close game. But Chris, what do you think happens this time around?
Uh, yeah, I got Dallas in this one. They looked awful last week, and honestly, the Falcons, I was very impressed with their win over New Orleans. But that being said, I think Dallas just had a bad game. Dak coming off the injury. The Broncos have a good defense. They had a lot of fourth down stops early in that game. It was a weird game in general. I don't expect Dallas to come out and play that flat again, have those boneheaded decisions. I think they'll win this game. I think it could be a good game, but it is in Dallas. I expect them to win by inside a touchdown, something like that.
Yeah, I agree. Also, I got to take into account a revenge game for defensive coordinator Dan Quinn going up against his former team. Just something to note. But I think these two teams, when they normally come together, they have a pretty entertaining game, and there'll be offensive weapons all over the place. Atlanta's still without Calvin Ridley, so they'll have to make up that difference. But Patterson is still playing just as good as he did the first half of the year. So next game, Saints Titans. Obviously, we just talked about the Saints and their loss against the Falcons. Kamara, that injury just came up out of nowhere. We'll see how serious it is. Would be a huge blow to that team if they were to lose him for this week. It looks like Simeon's still going to go in as a starter. I would argue Taysom is probably better off as a starter in that offense. He didn't get out as much playing time, but in the plays that he were in, they were able to move the ball down the field. And Simeon, he was all right, and he looked fine the week before too. But I think Taysom just more dynamic in that offense as a starter. But regardless, they are going up against a very, very hot Titans team who absolutely dominated the Rams on Sunday Night Football last week. Their defense, they had some fair criticism going into the season, but they looked very, very well against the Rams. So they dominated from start to finish, made Stafford uncomfortable, made him throw a bunch of picks, which he doesn't normally do. And even without Derrick Henry, I mean, they ran it all right. They had McNichols, they had Deontay Foreman, and Adrian Peterson, obviously. So they're still making up that difference with the committee. I'll go first with this game. I'm picking the Titans to win again this week, and Drew agrees. I think this team's just too good. AJ Brown did get nicked up. We'll see how he progresses throughout the week. I think he'll play, but I don't think it'll make a difference. Titans should win this one.
I got the Titans as well, and it kind of pains me to say it because I actually did want to pick New Orleans in this game if they had Kamara healthy, which I mean he could definitely play, but I'm not really sure what his status is as of right now. So I'm going to go with Tennessee to be safe for myself. But if he just note it here, not going to count towards the pick. I'm not going to help my record. But if Kamara is active, I think New Orleans is going to win this game. So we'll have to see. It's kind of a letdown game from Tennessee is what could happen. I think Tennessee kind of got fortunate. Stafford gave away the ball a couple times. I didn't really think, they definitely got a lot of pressure on him, which was why they won the game. But outside of that, I thought their offense looked really bad without Derrick Henry. Granted, it was the Rams defense. This is New Orleans defense. I don't think Simeon, not saying he's a better quarterback than Stafford. I don't think he's going to make the same mistakes Stafford did in that game. Those were a couple boneheaded turnovers by Stafford, who normally just an off night for him. He's a great player. Obviously won't do that every week, but I expect Simeon, game manager, if they have Kamara, I think they come out and get the job done, but we'll see.
Yeah, and you got to give credit to Tennessee's defensive front too, because they know that their secondary is very weak. I thought the Rams would kind of tear them apart in the secondary, but quite the opposite happened. So credit to Tennessee's defense. But we'll kind of go into two more AFC South teams. Jacksonville Jaguars pulled up the upset victory last week against the Buffalo Bills in a very, very weird score-kicking affair of 9-6. And then Indianapolis dominated the Jets on Thursday Night Football last week. They looked very, very good. Jonathan Taylor, Naeem Hines, they ran all over the place. Carson Wentz looking a little bit better each week, so that's good. Didn't try to make too many big plays, didn't make any mistakes, so that's good to see. So, Chris, who do you have in this game?
Yeah, I got Indianapolis. I don't think Jacksonville looked good last week, but the way Jonathan Taylor's been playing, which he's probably been the best running back in the league, not named Derrick Henry this season. I think he's been absolutely ridiculously good. Carson Wentz, honestly, I'm not calling him an MVP candidate or anything, but he's honestly looked really, really good the last few weeks. I mean, he's had a couple really boneheaded turnovers, but outside of that, I think he's actually this was a good trade for Indianapolis, even though it's probably going to end up being a first round pick for the Eagles because of the conditions or whatever of the second rounder. I think Carson Wentz has been absolutely worth that. And they started off extremely slow, but they've turned it around in my opinion. I think I still think they can make the playoffs with this current roster. I think Wentz has played himself into hopefully a contract. I do like to see this man because he's had a tough career. He's had a lot of early success, a lot of tough injuries. Didn't won the Super Bowl, but not really. A lot of different things going on with him. But I'm not like the biggest Wentz guy anymore. I used to be a big fan, but I am glad to see him kind of land on his feet here in Indianapolis. I think he's been really solid.
Yeah, I think he'll be a candidate for comeback player of the year for sure,
Absolutely.
considering all the heat he took last year. And the conditions of that trade, I think he just has to play 75% of snaps for that second to become a first, which he definitely will,
Yeah,
especially as
unless
you.
barring
Well, right,
freak
right,
injury, yes, he
yeah,
will definitely play that much.
yeah. And I said it last week. I'll probably continue this point. I do think Tennessee still wins the division, but the way Indianapolis is playing, they could definitely vie for a wild card spot
Yeah.
if Wentz continues to play at the level he's at. This game shouldn't really be much in question. Jacksonville, I think they got very lucky last week against Josh Allen, who did not perform at all. Both Josh Allen's going against each other. Jacksonville's Josh Allen got the better of them. But I think Tennessee, or the Indianapolis, they're just going to run all over Jacksonville. It should be over pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But next we go into another game we mentioned earlier. Could be a backup running back affair. Cleveland Browns at New England Patriots. Cleveland, I think Chubb will play, but even if he doesn't, they're in a good spot anyways with Dearness Johnson. Kareem Hunt still not coming back. He's a couple weeks away. But Odell Beckham, the loss of him is not making much of a difference. We kind of already knew this, though. Baker does much better without him on the field. He connected to Donovan Peoples-Jones on a deep touchdown, connecting to all his wide receivers, tight ends. Baker's looking better. I mean, this isn't new knowledge. I think we already knew this. But for the Patriots, so they had a good win against Carolina. It was a little close at some points, but Mac Jones and the offense pulled it away. Drew goes to New England. What do you think you're gonna go, Chris?
I'm also going with New England in this one. Somehow, and I've been talking about this lately with a few different people. I went from absolutely despising Tom Brady and absolutely despising New England Patriots to loving Tom Brady now on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and also loving the New England Patriots. I love the Patriots, man. This is a team, that they're not going to go out there and win by, Patrick Mahomes' way. Not this year, obviously, but, the Josh Allen way by throwing the ball 60 times, having Mac Jones throw for 600 yards. But they are going to go out there and they're not going to turn the ball over. They're going to run all over you. They're going to play solid defense. And they got a quarterback that I've been so impressed with Mac Jones. I don't think he's going to win the Rookie of the Year due to a guy like Jamar Chase being out there, but I have been so impressed with Mac Jones this year. I think he, has made some big boy throws all throughout the season. He had his best play. His best sequence of the year was honestly it had to do with a pick six from Trayvon Diggs, which was not a great throw whatsoever. A really nice play from Diggs, and the following play he goes right back at him and catches a break in the coverage and throws a perfect seed to Nelson Aguilar for a touchdown. It's one of my favorite sequences by any quarterback this year, and it's just part of the reason why I love Mac Jones. I think he's got balls of steel out there. He stays in the pocket a while. He trusts his guys on the outside. I love all of that about him, and they might be without Damian Harris. They may ask him to do a little bit more this week. It is in New England. I'm going to take the Patriots, who like I said, they're one of my favorite teams now, honestly. I know Drew's a big Patriots guy. He always has, but I'm getting on the Mac Jones bandwagon right now while there's still room to board.
And obviously, it's still early, but I think Mac's probably playing the best out of any of the quarterbacks in that
Easily.
draft class. Easily, yeah, for
Easily.
sure. Drew went to Patriots. This is a tough game for him to pick. He likes them. He likes both teams in this game. I'm actually going to go Cleveland. I think they just have better weapons on offense, and if Chubb plays, that should be a good key indicator as well. Both good defenses as well going against each other. The Browns might make Mac Jones look a little worse than he is, and Denzel Ward coming off a great performance as well. So I'm very excited for this game, regardless of whether the starting running backs play. But we'll stick in the AFC East here. Buffalo Bills at the Jets. Buffalo obviously coming off a bad loss. This could be a bounce back game for them. A get right game against the Jets, who they are getting Mike White back to be considered. I gave him my respect last week against the Colts. This could be another close game. I think the Jets might be hitting their shot on offense a little bit with Mike White. I'm liking what I'm seeing from him. But Chris, who do you like out of these two teams?
Yeah, give me Buffalo, man. I mean, this is a definition of a get right game going into New York. Play the Jets at Meadowlands. It doesn't matter. Mike F. and White, he's got some magic in him. I think he actually is going to move the ball against this Buffalo defense, which I mean, kind of doesn't make sense because they shut down everybody. But I think Mike White will move the ball. I hope he keeps the magic alive. I want to see him start more games this season. But ultimately, I think Buffalo wins this game pretty easily.
Yeah, the Jets last week. Elijah Moore, that was his breakout game too. So I hope he gets more involved with the offense. Michael Carter didn't do a whole lot, but I think he'll pick up the pace here a little bit. Even that backfield as a whole, I think they're all doing pretty solid. But this is Buffalo's game to lose for sure. But we'll move on to the next game, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers against Washington football team. Washington coming off of a bye week, but they desperately needed that bye week just because Gibson is still questionable, but it looks like he could be playing this week. Tampa also coming off a bye week. So we'll see how these two teams pair up against each other. I'm taking Tampa. These two teams obviously played each other in the wild card last season. I ended up being a good game. Heineke still the starter going forward. However, they are getting Ryan Fitzpatrick fairly shortly. I think he's getting an MRI very soon, so we'll see if he comes back in the next couple weeks. Both good defenses. I think high-powered offenses. Tampa should win though.
Well, I mean, you did say two good defenses. On paper, yes, Washington is good, but they
Yes,
have
yeah.
not been this year at all. And I think that's the difference in this game. Both teams coming off the bye. Hopefully, Washington has Antonio Gibson to a little bit, closer to 100% going into this matchup, or they have absolutely no chance, which I honestly don't think they have a very good chance anyway. This is a rematch from the wild card round last year where Taylor Heineke, the Heineke Magic almost led a win over the eventual Super Bowl champs. So we'll honestly put up a much better fight than the Chiefs. So maybe they were the second best team in the entire NFL last year. So, but anyway, I actually do think Washington could keep this game kind of close. I actually think Heineke's going to play good because I don't think Tampa Bay's secondary has what it takes. But Tampa Bay's coming off a bye. They could be without Chris Godwin and Antonio Brown. So
Mm-hmm.
that could have an impact. So start Mike Evans. That's my moral of the story. Start Mike Evans this week. He's
I
going to
can
go off.
I completely agree. And obviously Drew has Tampa as well, so we're pretty much in lockstep with most of these games. But I think the afternoon stretch could get a little bit more
He's
different.
definitely.
The next game we'll go into Carolina Panthers. Obviously had a very ugly loss last week against the Patriots. Sam Darnold seeing ghosts out there. He'll be seeing ghosts from the bench this week just because Philip Walker, PJ Walker, will be starting this week against the Cardinals, who got a very good win against San Francisco. I thought they would lose despite not being without Kyler or D Hop. They might not have D Hop this week, but they could get Kyler back. That really shouldn't make a difference. So I think Arizona wins this quite clearly, especially with James Conner. He'll definitely be a role in this game, and I think they're going to win easily.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely expect Arizona to win this game as well, regardless of quarterback or anything. This is a one, maybe if not the best, the top three defense in the league this year. They've been unbelievable from back end to front forward. Even without JJ Watt, it doesn't really matter. They've had no Chandler Jones at points. It doesn't matter. This is a good defense. Honestly, Coach of the Year, man, Cliff Kingsbury. I got to give it to him, man. He'd be my winner right now. I don't care, he struggled for a couple years. He's found it. I'm in on the Cliff train. He just coached, and I mean, this is a game that honestly, Arizona San Fran without Kyler, without Hopkins, I thought they had no chance of winning this game. I thought they were going to get blown out, but yet Colt McCoy, even Chase Edmonds was out of the game too. But it doesn't matter because Cliff is a good coach. He figured out some things they could do on offense to have success, and their defense did the rest. And I think that's the recipe here again against Carolina, regardless of who's in. Whether it's banged up Kyler, banged up Hopkins. Honestly, I would sit them both again. I think they can afford it. And I think they'll win this game even with Colt McCoy with that defense. Just let that defense, let James Conner carry you, and we'll see what happens from there. But I got Arizona.
Yeah, Colt McCoy was actually pretty solid in that game, and
Very solid.
I mean, I wouldn't call that a signature win against them, but good teams find ways to win with their without their best players. So
Right.
for Arizona, though, they look pretty good. They look a clear trajectory for the division. However, for San Francisco, they're in the complete opposite direction. We'll talk about them a little later. But the next game, Minnesota Vikings against the Los Angeles Chargers. Both teams took, or well, actually, Minnesota lost a heartbreaker in overtime, and LA they barely won against the Eagles. So we'll see what happens. Drew went the Vikings. I'm gonna go Chargers. I think this could be a very good game, though. Great running backs involved. Dalvin Cook had his sort of drama in the week. We won't really get too much in depth with that. Eckler, though, he has to have a better game. But overall, this could be a very high powering offensive game. So, what do you think, Chris?
Yeah, I pretty much agree with everything you said there. I'm going to take the Chargers coming off a close win against Philly, but a nice one at that. Their offense looked good. I thought Justin Herbert had a nice bounce back game after a rough stretch. I think Minnesota, like you said, can definitely keep this game close. They'll probably have a lead at some point and choke it away. That's all they've been doing this year. It feels like, Minnesota, honestly, I think it's time to make some changes with the coaching staff here. It's become that time, in my opinion. I just really don't think they've gotten it done there. I think they need a change of scenery. Let Kirk Cousins kind of cook a little more, because the fact that Justin Jefferson, and I have him on a lot of fantasy teams, so it kind of has to do with it too. The fact that he gets a 50-yard touchdown to start the game, you throw the ball to him 3 times, the rest of the game is absolutely asinine to me.
Yeesh.
I just don't understand that. I think you need to be involving your best player. I know Dalvin Cook's a great player. Like I said, we're not getting into this stuff off the field, but he's a great player. But Justin Jefferson is your best player, regardless of position. You need to get him the ball. Same with Adam Thielen, another great player. These guys need to be getting targets out there. It's just mind blowing.
All right, we'll hop into the next game on the slate here. Philadelphia Eagles. They lost to the Chargers, that we just previously talked about, and then Denver, obviously coming off a very hot win in Dallas. Um, Drew picked Philadelphia. That could be a very different game. But Chris, where are you going in this game?
Yeah, Roman, this is a interesting game in my opinion. Both teams, Philly, yeah, they've been all right at times, but they're still not a great team. I'm going to take them here on the road. This may be a bad pick. I think that Denver may be the better team on paper, coming off a nice win, but I just still don't trust Teddy Bridgewater. I don't trust this offense. Now that I think about it, maybe I should have taken Denver, but I'm gonna stick with Philly. They're always a team that kind of had a soft spot for. I thought Jalen Hurts played, despite not having a big statistical game. I thought he played really good last week. I thought that was honestly one of his best, if not his best, professional game so far. I thought he looked really good last week. Gave them an opportunity throwing the ball to Devontae Smith, who also looked. He's always open, man. I love Devontae Smith. He's a great player. Jamar Chase is kind of getting all the headlines this year, but this is a really good receiving class from top to bottom. I mean, you got him, you got Waddle, you got Bateman, Elijah Moore with a nice showing this week, and some other guys as well. But I last week was the Devontae Smith week, and he looked really good. 5 for, I think, 112 and a tutty. Honestly, felt like a lot more. He had a lot of nice plays in that game.
Yeah, that was probably his best game of the season too.
Easily.
But with Denver, though, I mean, you gotta look out for that backfield because Melvin Gordon's he's been quietly good, but Javonte Williams is certainly emerging. And I think we'll reach that cross point where he actually becomes the starter, the 1A, 1B starter. And he broke off some great runs last week against Dallas. So I'm looking forward to see what he can do. In terms of my pick, I'm just gonna keep going with Denver. I think they're gonna win this game. Their offensive weapons coming alive soon. I was siding with Judy. I'm looking forward to seeing what this team can do. And I think both teams can easily win in this game with the right game plan. Obviously, Miles Sanders still is out for Philadelphia, but I think both teams still are capable of beating each other. And then for Denver, also, with the first game without Von Miller, they looked pretty good. So I think I'm going to stick with them in this game.
Yeah, I
Uh,
like it.
Yep. Next game. This is a big game that we've been talking about. Seattle and Green Bay, potentially getting Russ and Rodgers both in the field at the same time. I think Russ, we can confirm that already. Rodgers, I think he plays, but I don't think he'll look the same. I mean, he's coming back. If he were to come back on Saturday, the day before the game, lucky it's a home game. But either way, I think this is a very entertaining game. I'll go first. I'm picking Seattle. Actually, I got the Russ jersey on right now. Um, like I mentioned, if Rodgers does play, I think that'll be much better because Jordan Love did not look great last week. But I think the 10-day holdout is going to be important. I think it'll be a key indicator of him not practicing for 10 days, coming back the day before the game. That has to take a toll on a player. So I'm going with Seattle. The defense is very susceptible coming off a bye week, though. Hopefully they fix those issues. I think it'll be a very good game overall.
I'm also going to take Seattle in this one. I think I'm going to kind of hedge in case Rodgers doesn't play. Even if he does, I think Seattle's got a shot in this game. They need to win this game to have any chance of making the playoffs. And I think they can get it done here in Lambeau. I mean, it's a tough place to play, but Russ is coming off the injury. I expect he'll play good, and he's definitely an upgrade over Geno Smith. That's for sure. Even if his finger falls off during the game, he's still a better quarterback. So I think Russ is going to play good. Both guys are similarly returning from injury and then COVID. I think both could be affected in this one, but I think Seattle, with the weapons they got, with everything going on with Green Bay and Rodgers surrounding that drama, I think that Seattle can get this game regardless of who the quarterback is for Green Bay.
And Jair Alexander could be out again for Green Bay too. So if he's
Probably will
out,
be, yeah.
yeah, if he's out, Seattle will cook, and I think it'll be a good day for them. And then obviously Drew went Green Bay, so he's obviously on an island for this game against us. But
Right.
going into the Sunday Night Football game, Kansas City Chiefs coming off a very bland, boring win against Green Bay last week, going up against the Raiders, who are, I think they had a good trend going, and they went to the Giants and lost last week. A very bad loss for them. At home for Vegas on a primetime game. I'm picking Kansas City, but I don't really feel confident as much as I used to be. I mean, Mahomes is not hitting the deep balls. He needs to get that figured out for sure. Vegas coming off a bad loss. I kind of like them on that hot stretch they had before and after the bye week, but Kansas City, I think this is their game to win.
Yeah, give me the. I'll take the Chiefs as well in this one. I think they're going to win this one. Vegas had a nice run, like you said, but I think this is their time to fall apart a little bit. And you know, this is kind of what's happened for them. It's been hot starts, and then when the month of November rolls around, they just absolutely just crap their shorts. So I think Kansas City really needs to win this game. If they do, they're right back in that divisional lead hunt. Right back in the top picture of the playoffs for the AFC. I think they get it done here. I think this could be a get right game for Kansas City. Finally, after all the struggles they've had offensively, I think this could be the game where they figure it out a little bit.
Yeah, I do have my fair share of concerns too, but I think when the months of November and December roll around, I think the Chiefs get better, the Raiders get worse, especially with all the drama going on in their headquarters right now with Gruden, Ruggs, and now Arnett. It's just looking pretty bad over there. But we'll go into the Monday Night Football game, Los Angeles Rams, another primetime game, another game for us Lions fans to watch. Stafford got it up on the national TV again, but I think he's going up against a good defense in San Francisco, who we talked about earlier, on a very downhill trajectory. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, although they were your and Drew's division winner. I don't think that's looking very good, very good now. Drew goes San Francisco. I think he's got a hatred for the Rams. I think you've got a hatred for the Rams, but I'm interested to see who you pick.
I'm going to go with the Rams in this one. I'm not going to go with Drew. They are going on the road. I think this could be a get right game. San Fran's defense stinks. Their offense stinks. Their whole team stinks. The Rams looked bad last week, but I think they can win this one, and they honestly need to win this one if they want to keep pace with the Cardinals. They pretty much have a 2-game deficit right now. As of right now, they got the head-to-head tiebreaker. I know they play again later in the year, so that'll kind of get canceled out if they're able to win. But they're also down a game as well in terms of win-loss record, so they need. Like I said, like we all predicted, I think Arizona beats Carolina next week or this week, regardless of who their quarterback and receivers are. So I think the Rams are going to have to win this one to get to keep pace with them.
Yeah, I agree, and obviously, the Rams, they just need to be better overall. Stafford, it all starts with him. If he doesn't have the 2 turnovers, I think they are a lot more competitive in the game. Cup didn't have the best game either, and they didn't really score their touchdown until like the last minute of the game or something like that. So that's not characteristic of that team at all. But
Yep.
I'll do it for week 10 pick 'em. We did split on a lot of games, like I mentioned. We did split more in the afternoon games,
Yeah,
but
definitely.
we'll see how it has effect on the rankings for next week. Hopefully, Drew can make it back for next week as well. But now we'll head into the fantasy pick'ems, our favorites of the week. Chris, do you want to mention Drew's real quick?
Yeah, I'll go through Drew's. He's got a couple picks here. I like both. Actually, one of them is in the Thursday night game, and that is Miles Gaskin. I think he could have a nice week against Baltimore. He's a guy that I don't like to trust as really anything more than a flex, but as a flex, I think he could do a pretty good job for sure for Drew's pick here. And then secondly, we also have Dan Arnold. tight end for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think against Indianapolis, they've been given a ton of passing yards up to pretty much every position. I think Arnold is absolutely a streaming contender for tight end. I think you could do a lot worse than Arnold this week. He's definitely one of my favorite guys. Pick up off the waiver wire and then throw him in the lineup. Honestly, I might honestly play him off of Drew's recommendation. Might be playing him in Dynasty this week because I've been kind of annoyed with the Goddard Ertz collection of tight ends I've had. Haven't ever put Arnold in. This might be the week I do it. I think he could get in the end zone this week. So I definitely like both picks by Drew, especially this Dan Arnold pick.
Yeah, obviously with any tight end, they're pretty much touchdown dependent outside of the big three, I guess you could say. But I think there's a lot of tight ends that have emerged to be like good, reliable tight ends, like Mike Gesicki. I would consider Goddard semi-reliable. Fryermuth too, I put in that conversation. Uh, and then obviously Dan Arnold, who's I think lower on that list, but I think he's becoming one of Lawrence's favorite reliable weapons at least. So obviously with Chark down, they got to spread the ball a little bit more. Arnold definitely coming up clutch for them in that trade. So I like that pick. And with Gaskin, I mean, I think we brought him up on this segment a few times, and usually we pick him off a good game and he does pretty bad. So it's pretty much a roller coaster season for
Yeah.
Gaskin. I think he had a touchdown last week, going up against a good defense this week. It could be bad, and I don't like to start Thursday night players in general, but if you have to start them, then you have to. If you don't, I'd opt not to. But Chris, give me your first guy of the week.
Yeah, my first guy is also another Thursday night player, and it's a guy that I have, really beat the drum for. One of my favorite rookies, and that's Rashad Bateman for the Baltimore Ravens. I think he's been solid, but not spectacular for fantasy. I think he's been a better real life player than he's been for fantasy, but he's been kind of getting around that 10-point threshold coming off the core muscle surgery he had early in the season. But I think against an exploitable Miami secondary who's been absolutely terrible all year, I think this is the time for Bateman to get his first touchdown. I think, I really have been impressed. Not just saying that because I liked him coming in. I've been very much impressed with his ability to go hunt for a first down. He's always a guy Lamar Jackson can rely on to get those. A great possession receiver, but he's also got some explosiveness. Was inches away from catching a long bomb touchdown for Lamar Jackson, but there was a PI call. So his line last week could have been his first 100-yard game. So obviously, this is a guy that I've beat the drum for a really long time. I really, really like Rashad Bateman's game. And I think, it fantasy wise, I think it shows up here. If you don't have a cleared option, if you got a guys on buy, I think Bateman is an absolutely smash play this week. I think he's going to be, I honestly think he's going to be a top 15 receiver this week. You can book it right now. I think he's going to have a great week.
Yeah, I mean, considering Lamar's playing at the level he's at too, I mean, and this could be a high-scoring game for Baltimore. They can beat the brakes off Miami real quick.
Easily.
So I think Bateman's going to get involved in that game plan for sure. So I like the pick a lot. I'll go into my first pick. This might be stealing a guy that you like, Chris, but I think he's worth mentioning. We brought him up once already. Running back for the Cardinals, James Conner. I think obviously with Edmonds out, he steps in right away. He had like what 3 touchdowns last week, so
Yep.
it's a great performance for
Hat-trick.
him. Yeah, and he's going up against a bad defense this week. Or I wouldn't call them a bad defense, but they've been bad for fantasy purposes. So I think Connor could have a good game. He's also a much better PPR player too, in PPR formats. So I think he's worth a start. And if he was on your bench before, you got to start him right now.
Yeah, I mean James Conner is an RB1 while Edmonds is out, and I think normally I don't think he's a better play in PPR than he is in standard, but without Edmonds, he definitely is. He's going to catch
Hmm.
3 to 5 passes, and honestly, I like him more if Colt McCoy plays because he doesn't have to worry about Kyler taking goal line touches away from him. Carolina's a tough defense or a tough run defense, so there's that. But regardless of matchup, you're starting James Conner as at worst a high end RB2, and in a good matchup, a top 5 running back for me.
Yeah, he would vulture all the touchdowns away from Chase Edmonds on the goal line too. But now he's getting all the work. They did bring up Benjamin. He had a touchdown last week. I think they might incorporate him just a little bit more, but clearly Connor's the clear one in that offense. So that's my pick. I'll go into my second guy real quick. It's actually a two-folder. I'll give you two guys. Obviously, I got to shout out my guy Pat Fryermuth. Had 2 touchdowns last week. Claypool, he's banged up, I think, with a toe injury. So if he doesn't play, I think Roethlisberger could target Fryermuth just a little bit more often than he did against a bad defense in Detroit. So I like Fryermuth in this game. And also I mentioned him earlier, Javonte Williams. I think there's a threshold coming where he becomes a starter, and he's getting good work too, even as a backup. So against Philadelphia, I think he's worth a play too. So those are my other two guys to mention.
Yeah, I guess I'll kind of group these two together because they won't be my picks. I have another guy I'll say, but Javante Williams, Melvin Gordon, or more gonna be one of my picks because Philly's exposable run defense. I mean, this is just absolutely trash defense, and they get lit up pretty much every week. I don't think it's going to be any different this week. I think Melvin Gordon, Javante, both startables, RB2s. Melvin Gordon's got a better chance at a touchdown, but I think Williams will probably outgain him on the ground. Maybe Melvin's got a little higher ceiling though because of the touchdowns. But another guy that I would probably group pretty similarly to the Javante Williams, the Miles Gaskin tier is Devin Singletary. And normally I'm not a big Singletary guy starting him because I don't think they like to run the ball very much. But against the Jets, maybe without Zach Moss, Singletary honestly could be a top 10 running back this week. Yeah, if Moss is out, I think he could have an awesome week. The Jets have been just bleeding points to the running backs. I mean, you saw Naeem Hines get damn near 20 points. You saw Jonathan Taylor go off for 200 total yards and 2 touchdowns. I mean, this is a defense that can't stop anybody on the ground. And they're exploitable through the passing game, too. But why pass the ball when you can run like that? I'm sure Josh Allen will be involved as well. Singletary may not find his way in the end zone, but honestly, I'd be stunned if Singletary. If Moss plays, it's a little bit sketchy. I think you start both guys as maybe low end twos. If Moss is back to full health and Singletary's still out there because he is involved, I think both could be low end number twos. And I'm not quite as excited. But with Moss, I think he might miss the game. And if he does, Singletary, I like him as a mid to high end RB2 and a guy that I am definitely starting in every format.
Yeah, I think this Bills want to come out with a statement game after the poor performance they put up last week. Starts with Josh Allen, and then obviously I think Singletary. Not a fan of him normally, but in this situation against a bad defense, optimal performance for him here. He's had a few smash games here and there. I think he had like 1 or 2 touchdowns against Miami earlier in the season, but either way, I think this is one of the boom games that he could have this year. So I'm looking forward to that pick.
Yeah, definitely, man. Yeah, this was a good episode for sure, man. I like all the fantasy picks. I'm looking forward to week 10, man. After going through the slate, I was a little worried because some of those earlier games, like you said, a lot of them I see as one-sided affairs. But last week was insane. We could see some upsets there, and then I really like that late slate, especially the primetime games. I think Kansas City, Vegas. I know we all picked Kansas City, but the Raiders. Let's see if they're at home on Sunday night. Let's see if they can contain this Mahomes-led Chiefs team. If Mahomes has another bad game, it's finally time to have a true conversation if the Chiefs are done, man. I honestly don't know. If the Raiders win this one, I think the Chiefs' playoff chances go right out the window. But like I said, I think they will win. So we'll have to see, man. I'm looking forward to it, though.
Yeah, a lot of interesting storylines going into this week, and obviously OBJ he was not signed during this recording. So if he gets signed, we'll let you know probably on our Twitter. So make sure to follow us on there. But we're the Zone Defense Podcast. We do these episodes every week on the NFL pick'em games, along with fantasy analysis and breaking news. Chris and Drew also do their weekly Zone Defense Basketball Hour. So be sure to subscribe on YouTube for that, and follow us on Spotify and Twitter at Zone Defense Pod, and search us on Apple Podcasts. Smash that like button and comment down below. Obviously, where you think OBJ ends up. If you like our picks from the week, who do you think wins the pick'em standings overall? It's probably going to be me. I'm already have a good lead so far, but we'll see what happens. We can always see a comeback here. But thanks for listening to the episode, and we'll see you next time.
Peace.